What's going on, everyone? Today I'm here with Melissa. Now, Melissa had joined us on our 1 Million Fathers Facebook page, and we had put out a call and also a video for people that's going through the family law system, who's being railroaded, can't see your children, or you have unjust alimony, whatever it may be in that corrupt system. Let us know, tell us your story, and we'll possibly bring you on the show. So Melissa told us her story, and then we brought her on. So Melissa, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me and allowing me some time to share my story.
Okay, so Melissa, tell the audience a little bit about your story. How did you end up in the family law court system?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think the reason I ended up in the family law system is because the end of my marriage ended bitterly. There was a lot of mutual marital betrayal and anger. So any attempts to solve any of the issues that we had in mediation, I wasn't able to do that. And I was looking for the most peaceful resolution, but my ex-partner was very, very angry and decided to want to enter the family court system.
So at the end of this relationship, the mediation was to separate property, or was it about the child support or visitation?
Well, so just to be really clear, none of the issues that we ever had in our marriage were about the children. There's never been any allegations of harm, abuse, or lack of care. Any problems that I had in my marriage were all just adult conflict that happens throughout the course of a long-term relationship. And at that particular time, just because I didn't want to be in the marriage anymore didn't mean that I didn't want to be a mom anymore. So I was looking for a 50-50 shared parenting arrangement. And the problem was that in my particular state, they don't generally grant shared parenting. You kind of get lumped into this category of custodial, non-custodial parent, which typically the mother becomes the custodial parent and the father is the non-custodial parent.
Yeah, usually the statistic on that, Melissa, is usually mothers get the children 90% of the time and fathers only give them 10% of the time. It's like a horrible situation just walking in there with that statistic alone.
Yes, and I can see, and the reason that I was chosen as the non-custodial, or typically as the father, was because at the time of the divorce, part of the reason I wanted the divorce was that my ex-partner was refusing to return to full-time work, and I think I had developed some resentment over that, and I was working full-time in a really stressful job. So at that time of the divorce, because I was the working parent, I was chosen as the non-custodial or the father, put it into that father category.
So do you feel the state just want to make money off of the cases and not really about the financial well-being of the children?
Yes, I do. I think that the attorneys involved, I think that the judge involved didn't listen carefully and take the time to understand all the particular nuances of my case. I think that the child support program is marketed to have this deadbeat dad image and to gain sympathy from the public, and for the public to automatically make assumptions about the non-custodial parent. And the second that a person is categorized as a non-custodial parent, you lose a vast majority of your parental rights. And it's all built into the system, and which the system, the attorneys, the judges all benefit from.
Yes, they do, because, you know, from my personal experience, when you go through a divorce, you know, you already have a roller coaster of emotions. You're angry. In some instances, you're sad. In some instances. And it's like they take advantage, especially those attorneys. To me, divorce attorneys are like bloodsucker demons to me, because they, you know, you can have a conversation with your ex and then you can make an agreement. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Then they go over there, talk with that attorney, and they gas their head up. And then now you talk to them, they're acting so evil with you. Like, what? You get what I'm saying? Did you experience that?
Yes, I did. And I oftentimes would think to myself, how did I get to the point in my life, in my relationship, in my post-divorce marriage, that a complete stranger who's an attorney is coming up to me in the hallways of the family court and actually threatening to decrease my parenting time just because I'm trying to advocate for my parental rights. And that is a very, very sad system.
It is. And now in the state, you told me you was in the state of Rhode Island, correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Now in the state of Rhode Island, do they have what they call expanded possession time? Do they have that?
So it would be called extended visitation, which I take offense to that term in itself because I don't visit my children. I parent my children. So I like to call it extended parenting time. And they do have that, but the state of Rhode Island has received an F from the National Parents Organization in this particular category. They're not progressive in the way that the court treats shared parenting cases.
Now, from my experience, I fought and I got that time that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And just from a parent to have that, from experience, I feel that what you want to call expanded visitation, expanded parenting, I feel that is better, at least for you as a parent, because, this every other weekend, Friday at 6 o'clock to Sunday at 6 o'clock. And then what's the standard with Wednesday, 2 hours out the week, and then you get 30 days out of the summer. That's not enough to be just a weekend parent. So at least with mine, I don't know how yours work, but mine is I have them every other weekend, but it starts from Thursday after school. I pick them up from school. Mm-hmm. And have him all the way to Monday till I drop him back off at school. And then that one Thursday, the following week that I don't pick him up, I pick him up from school, and then I drop him back to school on Friday. And I also get 45 days in the summer instead of 30. Would that probably be work better possibly for you?
Yeah, well, for my situation, my schedule looks a little odd. I have the children overnight every single Wednesday night, and then every other weekend from Friday after school to Monday until I drop off. And that really isn't enough. It's not a perfect 50-50 parenting schedule. And the problem is that what the court does is, so you take a case like mine where there's two adults, and one adult, the custodial parent, is feeling scorned and angry and betrayed. There's no motivation for that person to come to the table and act with fairness to create a fair parenting schedule. So in my particular case, my ex-partner knew that basically if she came to the table and agreed to a 50-50 shared parenting schedule, that it would then the court would have to grant a shared parenting, and she wouldn't be able to maximize her child support payment. And so there was when you have somebody who's angry like my ex, they're going to use the system and the built-in assumptions and discrimination and prejudice to their full advantage. So I couldn't even get a clean 50-50 parenting time with my children.
So, I heard you say something, and maybe some people are going to catch it, so I'm going to catch it for them. Mm-hmm. You had mentioned, she. I heard you say that. Do you speak in error?
No, that's correct.
Okay, so the other parent is a lady.
Yes.
Okay, so like as I told a lot of people, we talked about this. I'm very interested in hearing how that goes, because the family law system is so biased against men. And anytime we come in there as men, as fathers, we come in and we're creamed. It don't matter how great of attorney you have sometimes, unless the woman is just downright horrible, she's going to get, the children, period. So since you was two women there, how did the judge look at that? Because for me, it seemed like because you had the income, the judge kind of put you in a position like maybe another guy would be put in because you got the income, and then the other parent didn't have it. That's kind of how we looking at it here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes, you could say even though I am a woman, I was treated the way a man would be treated, and I was creamed as well, absolutely, by the system.
So why would they threaten you with reduced parenting time if you spoke up to try to get more parenting time?
Well, so to maximize, because the attorney for my ex-partner knew that on paper, if we put on paper what the real parenting schedule. So what I'm saying is, in reality, my parenting schedule with my ex looks more like almost 50-50 completely. But the problem is, if that was put on paper, then the judge would most likely have to grant shared parenting arrangement. And the attorney was trying to, and my ex-partner, they were trying to maximize the most money and treat me like an ATM machine or a bank. So they were trying to maximize the child support payment. So on paper, it looks like I have very little involvement with the children. And in reality, I have about 50% parenting. So what happened was, when I went to the attorney for my ex-partner and said, look, I want to discuss the fact that my ex-partner is choosing not to work full-time, and I'd like the court to consider that I have to care for the children almost 50% of the time. So please take that into consideration when you determine my child support payment. The attorney said, well, if you continue to complain about your child support payment, we will go to court and have your parenting time decreased because it's not finalized with the court. And I said, well, I want to make the real parenting time schedule finalized with the court. And the attorney said no, because what they're doing is they're using that against me. They won't finalize the real parenting schedule to continue to extort me for the maximum child support payment possible.
Well, number one, you need to understand, the attorney, he is the judge first and foremost, and that's what attorneys do. If they can get you to basically plea out, that's like doing a plea deal. They get you to plea out, is better for them. They don't have to fight in front of the judge. But one thing you need to know is you need to know Rhode Island family law. And every state has a child support guideline, how much child support you're supposed to pay each child. Like here in the state of Texas, for one child is 20%. An attorney can say whatever he wants, but the state can only charge 20% unless you have extra stuff going on, like businesses and other things they can consider that you benefit from. So it doesn't matter what that attorney says; they have to follow state law. And now visitation, they can't reduce visitation because you're talking about your child support being what the state say is at the fair level. That's just a tactic.
You're 100%. I agree with you completely. That is a tactic. It's a tactic for extortion, because by keeping me silent and keeping me in fear of losing my children, for the past several years, I've just been paying out this outrageous amount of money every month, and I've just determined that I don't want to be silenced anymore. I want to come forward with my story because it's unfair. And I see the corruption in the system. And I just want to say, not only is it the child support, but it's the joy of my parenting has been taken away. And can I give you an example?
Sure. So
some of the things that I love about being a parent is those times of the year when it's back to school shopping or picking out a Halloween costume. Well, now, because I have to give my ex-partner the money to purchase these kind of things in the form of a child support every month, I don't get to enjoy these activities with my children anymore unless I pay twice. So what happens is, when my beautiful children come to me and they would like me to take them to the store and pick out a $60 Halloween costume, I either have to take a deep breath and pay twice for the Halloween costume, right? Because I already gave that money in the form of the child support payment for these kind of things to my ex. I either pay twice, or I have to get in an uncomfortable situation, explain to my child that I already gave the money to their other parent, or I just say no, and I look like the unsupportive or the disinterested parent. And so these are some of the ways that I realize that men get perceived that they don't care, or they're unsupportive, or they're disinterested, when all the time they're put in a very difficult situation when these kind of injustices happen within the system.
Yes, and then, you know, I know about that because I think my worst time was right after I got divorced, and or during the process of the divorce, and, you know, I lost everything. Everything I worked for, I lost it all. I went from having a 3-bedroom home that we bought and to being relegated to a 1-bedroom apartment with nothing, sleeping on an air mattress, eating on the floor, having just a few pots and pans and from stuff from the dollar store. That's what I was relegated to. So I understand that you pay your child support. You know what? You can't even tell them nothing because there's no way for them to even audit what they do with the money. You can't say, well, what are you spending the money on? You could see your child come to your house and it could be in certain clothes they have that don't look right. You say, wait a minute, I know I'm paying child support. Why you got that on? You get what I'm saying? It goes beyond Halloween costumes. And yeah, I get what you're saying. So you do put in the position that you broke. You don't have it. You paid it already. So either you double pay or you just go on. Like with my situation, I don't even ask about nothing. We have our own set of clothes when he comes over, our own set of shoes, own set of everything. I don't even get involved with it. And I can fuss more about anybody by the amount I pay. But the system is set up with, and that's what most men are fussing about. Like, why isn't there a system to audit it? If the IRS has a system to audit your taxes, why can't a court order be audited or what you're doing with the funds?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I went through I go through all those things too. I mean, I would be rainy season and I would notice that my children are wearing the same rain boots from last year. And I'm thinking like, okay, so why do you not have a new pair of rain boots? Or I find out that my ex-partner went on a trip to Florida twice in 1 month. So I'm like, okay, so they can, she can afford a trip to Florida twice in 1 month, but my children are wearing the same rain boots from that last year. So I agree with you. Like, I think a good solution is to have a third party. Like, if child support money went to a third party and then that third party wrote the check and made sure that it was just for the children. And, I also want to say, too, that if my state law says that I have to pay child support because I'm the higher earning parent, I'm not contesting that. I love my children and I want what's best for my children. All I'm saying is, if my ex does not want to return to work full time, and this is a person with a doctoral degree, a very impressive work history, no disabilities, and 45 years old. If my ex-partner does not want to work full time, that's okay, but that needs to be considered into the child support check. And also, I just want the court to acknowledge that I also am a single mom, and I need to provide support about 50% of the time for the children myself, my own mortgage payment, my own utilities. I just want these things factored into the child support payment. That's it. Very simple.
Well, Melissa, take it from a person who really went through the ringer about a year ago with that system. I mean, just horrible. They don't care. They don't care about your bills. They don't care about your other children that you have to support. Like me, I have other children I have to support outside of my son. They don't care about medications. They don't care about nothing. All they care about is you paying that money at the beginning of the month, because if you don't and you brought in on contempt, well, there you go. Now they'll be threatening to put you in jail. Trust me, the way that made me feel, like I wasn't even human. Like when we brought up the wait a minute, I literally said this. My attorney, no, I said it, and my attorney backed it up. He has other children and he has to support, and her attorney said that's not relevant to this case, and the judge said, yeah, I agree with the other counsel. That's not relevant to this case at all. Now, when you hear that your children that you're supporting in your household isn't relevant to the situation at hand, I mean, it makes you trust me, I want to do something wrong. Don't you dare talk down about my kids like that. Like they're not worth crap. And that's the way this system is. All they care about is a paycheck. And if you don't pay that, you're going to jail. Just that simple. Absolutely.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt too. That the time that the children with me doesn't matter. The fact that I have to be careful how high I turn up my heat when I'm with my kids. It doesn't matter when they're with me because I don't mean anything. because I'm the non-custodial parent, right? The typical, quote, every other weekend dad, which is the problem, because, you know, the archaic child support system is the custodial mother who's perceived to have the children 100% of the time, and then the non-custodial father who lacks parental involvement or interest in the child's life and occasionally picks up the child for dinner. That's exactly how the court treated me. Instead of treating me like a loving mother that's very involved, that also has to pay the mortgage and buy food and put on the heat. Nothing. I am absolutely insignificant, and my children when they're with me. All I care about is I pay for support when they're in the custodial parent's home.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the whole system when it comes to this family law system. It's all about money, and when you have things that focus on money, it's corruption. They try to do this, guys, in the best interest of the child. Well, it's not in the best interest of a child if a parent can't even take them out for ice cream. It's not the best interest of the child when the parent is literally relegated homeless, and that's happened to some people out there. Some men that's trying their best to get disabled and lose everything. Or it's not the best interest of the child to throw them in jail because they lost their job, because they couldn't pay child support, or taking their license away, or not allowing them to register their vehicle. And it's just these people are literally just trying to cut you at the throat every chance they get. And no politician, that's my problem, on the left, right, center, whatever, none of them saying a word.
Yeah, and why is that? Because that's a part of the story that I don't understand. Why is there so much silence in the system?
I don't understand it either, but I feel that it has to going to be a grassroots level voice to challenge that, because politicians, they all getting a skin in the game, obviously, not to say anything, because you have a lot of feminist groups out there that want the system to stay the way it is because it's benefiting them. You have a lot of people out there who don't care if another parent, even some parents even commit suicide because of the things they've ever been through with divorces and losing everything. You have some men right now who refuse to get married. They're not doing it. They say, because I'm not going to lose half of my income, I'm not going to get put in jail or anything else behind a state contract. Because really, if you think about it, at the end of the day, it's a state contract that you're signing. And at the breaking of this state contract, this is what we're going to do to you. That's why a lot of people say, you know what, man, I just have a girlfriend. I'll make a family with her, whatever, but I'm not putting my ink on no paper.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do it again either. And I agree with you. It is a contract, and for many cases, it's a state-sponsored form of welfare or thievery. And it's interesting you say the word feminist, because my whole life I've thought of myself as a feminist and wanting to, advocate for injustices and pay scales and those kind of things. And never did I think that sitting here as a feminist, I'd be advocating for men's rights. But I see things so differently now. I see a completely different perspective. And to your point, I was living in a $500,000 house, and I had a 3-car garage. And at the time of the divorce, the judge told me that I had to pay, this is at the time of the divorce, I had to pay mortgage in lieu of child support. Well, the mortgage payment was about $2,500 a month. Well, immediately I knew I couldn't afford that alone. My ex-partner was working part-time, not full-time, and refusing to go back to full-time work and to leave the house. So it put me in a situation where it took so much of my paycheck to single-handedly, as a new single mother with children, with me taking care of the children 50% of the time, I ended up in an apartment, in a 2-bedroom apartment, having to have my cousin come in and help me pay because I got ripped off by the system.
Yeah, I understand it 100%. And it is amazing that you say you were a feminist, and I didn't know that. And now you see the light of what a lot of men was talking about. Because, when men talk about this, we're not saying it to be mean. We love our children. It's not that we don't want to pay. We want to. I've talked to men of all groups, all different walks of life, and all of them want to do right by their children. Only thing they're asking is treat me fairly and let's see an audit of where the money's going. That's it. And I don't think that's too much to ask. And what you're saying about paying the mortgage, yes, I went through that too, on top of a temporary alimony I had to pay, on top of child support. I mean, they literally were breaking me, you know, inside and financially. And I still had to go to work.
Yeah, and it was
on top of that.
Gender, and it was based on your gender, and that's exactly why it's unfair. And that's exactly my case too. And here I am as a woman, but they're treating me like they would a man, and they're breaking me the same thing, absolutely breaking me. And that's part of the system where there's no audit. To use your word, audited. Like, why isn't there someone going to the other parent saying, "Hey, you know, you need to work full time," or just saying like, "Hey, it's okay if you don't want to work full time, but we're going to impute income into the child support."
Well, I don't care. I don't care what the other parent do personally. I just want to know where those funds are going. Period. You don't have to work. I don't care what you do. You could be getting money from other places I don't know. Don't care. I just want to know where the funds are going. Look, they can break down the chart and say, look, so much percent can go to a light bill. So much percent can go to rent. So much percent can go to this and that. You get what I'm saying? I'm fine with it. I just want to know where it's going, because when you say it's for the child, it's for the child, not for you to go to the club, not for you to get your nails done or your hair done, not for you to pay your car note, because that's your car. If you didn't have a child, you would still have a car note. Not your insurance, none of that. The child, period. And that's just, like I said, that's just screwed up, because if I had custody of my son, I wouldn't even do child support on her. For what? I don't need to. And most men take that route. They don't even want to do child support. They just let them have visitation.
Well, that's what I was saying exactly, because I have some good friends, which, to circle back to the beginning, I have a really good friend, two good friends. They were married, husband and wife, for a long time, and they didn't have that anger to get back at each other, and so they just determined and they realized they both had the ability to earn a similar income. And when she went to court, the court said to her, well, aren't you going to file to get child support? And she was appalled. She said, why would I do that to him? That's not fair. And so I've seen cases where two people who treat each other with fairness and respect, it's always in the best interest of the child. And it also doesn't make the children feel like they have to, pick in between both parents. So by having, if parents want shared parenting, it actually, it's for the best mental health of the children, and it helps to reduce conflict. Because the point, someone like me wouldn't come on this show unless I was outraged about how unfair I was treated.
Yeah, and I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to, come on the show and let people know what's going on, because this is something, like I said, I'm personally passionate about, is standing up and getting the stories out and coming against this family law system that's very corrupt, because it's wrong what they do to, not only the parents, locking them up in jail and taking their license away and just treating them like they're not human, which is totally wrong, just so you can get a buck and so the state can collect a certain amount of money every year out of each child support case that they have. But like I said, Melissa, once again, I want to say thank you for taking the time to share with us your story and being brave enough to get it out there. And when it comes to the tactics of that lawyer is doing a lot of bluffing, please read the family law code, and that way you know exactly what he can or cannot do, because even judges are bound by what's in the law.
Yes, thank you. I will. And thank you for this opportunity to come on and share my story.